So when it comes to utility-based projects, one of the growing narratives around all of these projects is when and how exactly do they get integrated within specific systems. Specifically, when we think about that, we really address the global financial system. And I do believe that that is already ongoing. I think that a lot of the obstacles that are in the way of a lot of these great projects are starting to get torn down. And a lot of that has to do with one of the biggest obstacles, which is the lack of regulatory clarity, which in this video, I'm going to be addressing a lot of what's actually happening around this space that's clearing a path to projects like XRP, XLM, HBAR, even Algo, getting tapped in and integrated within the US financial system. So sit back, relax. Welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. So, towards the end of December, we saw a new category hit CoinMarketCap, and that was USA. Made in America tokens by market capitalization. And of course, we do have number one on the list, XRP. Outside of that, you have some other great projects. But what's crazy about this is, during that time, we were looking at the adoption cycle of some of these great utility-based projects heating up. Now, everyone wants to talk about how the 4-year cycle is ending and we're ushering into the utility age of crypto. I think that we are still a little bit of a ways off, from that. Because we still have yet to see regulatory clarity hit these markets. Now, my time frame on that has always been about roughly the end of 2025 into 2026. That's not because I believe that that's the time frame, but that's because of what we have been given from the FSB with the BIS and even the IMF. But again, I still think that regulations are initially fairly bearish. I think that they actually, hit the market in a big way. And it probably takes about a year or two for the market to start to bounce back. And then we still have the, actual integration and utilization at scale phase that we have to get to. But that's the best part because it's a upward path after that point. So during that entire, time after the space is fully regulated, we will basically see an up-only game that might be slow initially, but over time, it's going to start to accelerate more and more and more. But when it comes to a lot of these projects, we want to know how exactly are we going to get to the point where these are being utilized at scale? Well, it all really kind of starts with regulations, but there's already a growing need to adopt these projects. We know that one of the biggest narratives this year so far was Elon Musk actually calling for the US to explore the use of blockchain technology to not just modernize, operations, but also counteract fraud. The best way to, get rid of fraud is by making everything fully transparent and tracking it on chain. And the best way to do that is by putting it on the blockchain. There's a few things that, Elon was talking about, but a lot of it was based around like cutting costs and improving efficiency specifically, but also tracking federal spending. That way we know exactly where the money's going, exactly what the money is being spent on. And one thing that I've always focused on with blockchain around the government is tax money, right? Imagine being able to get a breakdown of how much and where your money is actually being spent on. That would be a huge, huge move. And it would be something that I'm sure a lot of people would actually, love to see because we still don't have a complete breakdown of where our tax money actually goes. But then after this, we got a big executive order, and this was actually back in March. Now, this was a clear confirmation of what's coming because this was the executive order that was titled Modernizing Payments to and from America's Bank Account. Now, this was a game changer, especially when you actually look at what they're fully focused on. Now, they do talk about how there's a lot of theft and a lot of fraud around payments, even like around the COVID-19 pandemic, things like that. But within this, the main focus was actually, utilizing specific assets, specific digital currencies. The main thing was like stablecoin initiatives and just digital wallets. Like for an example, here we have direct deposits, debit and credit card payments, digital wallets, and real-time payment systems. Like when we're thinking about digital wallets and real-time payment systems, we're immediately thinking about stablecoins. We know that this is mainly talking about stablecoins because, around the US system right now, we have a lot of people like Scott DeCeNT that have been putting a huge focus on stablecoin initiatives to actually not only secure the US dollar as a reserve currency, but also, make sure that the US is a leader around crypto. So they're going to tap into stablecoins. This is basically that confirmation that they're going to start to really kind of push for digital wallets and real-time payment systems based on DLT around stablecoin initiatives. And then, of course, we have other modern electronic payment options. But there's a lot of information within this, but the main focus here is we need to modernize. We need to make sure that payments to and from America's bank accounts are extremely efficient, and the best way to do so is by tapping into new technology. So we're immediately thinking blockchain-based technology, and a lot of these great assets like XRP, even XLM, even Hedera and Algorand, like all of these great utility-based projects, the number one thing that they've always been focused on is improving payments, improving, how fast payments are settled, the cost in which, those payments are also settled, and just the transparency around them as well. So it's crazy to see this, but it's not surprising because we knew that we will eventually get to this stage. But on top of that, Hedera recently posted on April 30th. Now, this was an interesting one, because it was the Senate Commerce Committee meets today to consider the deploying, well, this is basically like deployment, I would argue, of American Blockchains Act of 2025. This is a key step towards long-term U.S. leadership in blockchain and digital infrastructure. Forward-looking policy like this helps provide clarity for innovators. Now, within this bill, which we'll talk about, it specifically outlines major key talking subjects of how we get to the point where blockchains are deployed around the American system to not only make efficient payments and payment technology, but revolutionize everything, which we'll address. But remember how connected Hedera actually is. They have a public policy page on Hedera's website where we can see all of their memberships and partnerships. They are one of the biggest players in this space around a lot of the connections that they already have. And obviously, yes, it's a US-based project. They've been absolutely killing the game around the US market for a while. They've been expanding rapidly, and they just continue to be a spotlighted, player. Even back in May of 2021, they were a big spotlighted player on a PDF file for Project New Dawn, which was the exploration of a digital dollar. And Hedera was partnered up with the Fed and even Microsoft. But also, we go back to February 11th, where Hedera's chief policy officer was at the House Financial Services Committee hearing, and there's a quote, "It's encouraging to see bipartisan support for shaping the future of digital assets. Are we in the golden age of crypto?" And I believe that we are. I think that from here on out, we are only going to continue to see major moves happening around the adoption, the acceptance, and even the integration of specific crypto tech. Now, if we actually go over here to the Deploying American Blockchains Act of 2025, we could just scroll down and immediately right off the rip, we have a bill to require the Secretary of Commerce support the leadership of the United States with respect to the deployment, use, application, and competitiveness of blockchain technology and for other purposes. You're trying to tell me that this isn't directly, connected back to all of the stablecoin initiatives and discussions ongoing in the US, and also this executive order that's titled Modernizing Payments to and from America's Bank Accounts? No, this is crazy. And we also even have down here the full breakdown of blockchain technology or even other DLT. Again, when we think about that, Hedera isn't blockchain technology, it's Hashgraph, right? And Hashgraph is, a completely different, thing when it comes to, blockchain or, this, that, whatever. A lot of people actually get confused when they talk about Hedera because they just think that it's another blockchain-based, project, but it's not. But there's a lot of things that are actually getting broken down within this, but it's the fact that we're starting to see tokenization being addressed. We're starting to see the efficiencies of this type of technology being addressed. And I'm very excited about this. I think that this is a massive, massive push. And it's a huge confirmation that, Congress is getting ready, to really start to, push for the adoption of blockchain technology in the US. And, Brad Garling also stated this back in March. He even said that, I strongly believe we are underestimating what it means to unlock the US market through upcoming crypto legislation, as well as previous guidance and statements rescinded from the SEC and even the OCC allowing financial institutions to work with crypto. with 4+ years of headwinds behind us, the US is ready to reclaim its leadership position. And, again, when we look at Ripple, they've always been focused on modernizing the financial infrastructure, changing the way money is moving around the world. They've always been highlighting, the internet of value and using XRP and blockchain. I mean, you got to remember that Ripple was one of the first players to actually get ISO 20022 compliant, and they're one of the first blockchain-based names on that list, which is just crazy. But on top of that, you also have Stellar, right? And even more recently, Stellar did put out a video, which was straight fact. Smart governments use smart technology. The current US administration is on the right track, and organizations like refugees are proving Stellar's real-world impact daily. Check this out.
Howdy, my name is Garen, and I work on protocol here at the Stellar Development Foundation. A few months ago, the US government expressed interest in starting to use blockchain and cryptocurrency technology for government operations. Now, I know what you must be thinking. In a world full of meme coins and crypto scams, why would the US government be interested in blockchain? In my opinion, I think blockchain is actually the perfect tool for some of the problems facing the current administration. So let's talk about it. This is Straight Facts with Stellar. The new administration has distinguished two key problems they're interested in solving. They want to first cut down on the amount of government spend and also increase the amount of government transparency. I think these two key features are what makes blockchain such an interesting technology when it comes to government finances. First, contrary to what you might believe, blockchain is actually the most public and traceable payment platform currently in existence. Unlike a private network such as a ACH or the Swift banking network, every transaction is publicly viewable on-chain at all times. In this way, blockchain could substantially increase the transparency and trust that we have in the US government's financials. Next, the issue is low cost. Today, if you use a traditional financial payment system, fees could be 3 up to even 5% of the overall transaction. On blockchain, on the other hand, it is not only much faster than traditional payment rails, but much cheaper. On Stellar, for example, you could send millions of dollars in a single transaction that takes 5 seconds and costs less than a penny. You can send this to anywhere in the world, cross-border, doesn't matter. It's the most efficient payment platform in existence today. It just makes sense for the US government to be interested in this. And when it comes to Stellar, this isn't just theoretical. There are real-world use cases currently being used. For example, the UNHCR uses the Stellar Disbursement Platform, or SDP, in order to send money to displaced individuals. There are also examples of this in private industries as well. The company Bigger has to pay its employees in many different countries. Previously, this took over 8 hours of processing every month just for payroll. But with Stellar, they're able to do this in seconds. These are just two of many examples of how the Stellar Disbursement Platform is solving real-world issues today. Despite the flashy and sometimes maybe even scary headlines, let's not forget what blockchain technology is good for. Stellar is committed to bringing transparency, efficiency, and accountability to how governments, institutions, and businesses serve everyday people.
And yeah, this is crucial, right? Crypto always gets a bad name, but when we think about what's actually happening here, the world is waking up to just how incredible this technology is. And when I say the world, I specifically mean the governments, right? Governments are on track to really tap into blockchain in a big way and start to utilize it at scale. And I think that this is only going to continue to accelerate and heat up more and more as we do get through this year, but also going forward. Even Algorand, right back in February, did propose its blockchain to the United States to improve government efficiency. Almost every one of these great US-based crypto projects are on board of this. They want to, really be utilized. They want to, tap in and see that adoption grow. And I do suspect that it will. And what's crazy about this is we already know that this admin is accelerating legislation in a big way. And this is going to clear up so many obstacles. When we think about clarity around even stablecoins, right? Just stablecoins alone, once we start to see stablecoins being fully regulated and having clarity around the stablecoin market, that starts to unlock a lot more around this market. And when I say that, I mean more so banks, institutional players tapping into stablecoin initiatives, starting to offer stablecoin initiatives and services to their clients. I do think that we're starting to see this entire market open up. And I do believe that, yeah, we are going to start to see a big shift on these utility-based projects as well, and a spotlight put on them because of their overall efficiencies, the technology behind them. And I think that a very clear insight around that is what Congress is delivering to us, what this admin has been delivering to us. We are clearly starting to see a very big push on the modernization of our financial system. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, to notifications on to get some more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.